Swords out chill, better guard your soul from wolves and sheep's clothes.
Like a kick in the teeth. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
there's no words to describe it. No words to describe it.
That stab in the back went deep.
To know that, we were here thinking she was out working, and the whole time he's over there doing whatever he's doing.
This is the story of 17-year-old Valerie Tindall, who was murdered by a 59-year-old predator. And then he buried her body in a homemade box he had built, buried under his shed. Another box was found buried filled with VHS tapes. What in the world was on those tapes, and could 59-year-old Patrick Scott be a serial killer? Or could he have child on those tapes? What is on those VH tapes that he felt so compelled to hide? Come join me in the murder she shed for this breaking case right out of Indiana. Only about an hour and a half from Delphi, Indiana, where the Delphi murders took place. Another little girl murdered, only 17 years old. Hello, my name is Holly, and I tell breaking crime cases and also rarely discuss true crime cases right here from my little she shed. Just push that subscribe button before you forget. Y'all want to come back and visit me in the she shed? I usually put out 1 or 2 videos weekly. Also have a new channel called Strange She Shed, which I pretty much just talk about reality shows and crazy TikToks and just kind of extreme things, crazy things that happen in this world. You might go visit me at the Strange She Shed. I'll leave the link in the comments for you guys. Thank you for all your support. I really enjoy each and every one of y'all. Well, let's get right into this heartbreaking case. First, the suspect is innocent until proven guilty in court, as always. Valerie Tindall, who had just finished her 11th grade in high school, loved animals and wanted to be a veterinarian, and also lived with her family in Arlington, Indiana. She was out for the summer, she was excited to be a senior, and she had actually already been accepted into a college. And she was ready to love on animals, which makes her a great person to me, because you know how much I love animals if you watch this show. Her family said she was sweet, smart, and funny, and loved doing TikToks with her 2 sisters. Valerie was also a hard worker, and this past summer, she was working for a 59-year-old neighbor named Patrick Scott. Scott owned a landscaping business, and she had been mowing lawns for him while out of school for the summer. Just a little summer job. Valerie was primarily responsible for mowing grass and rode to most job sites with Scott. Valerie's family and the Scott family often socialized together, and Valerie was actually friends with Scott's granddaughter. On June 7, 2023, Valerie told her dad she was off to work, and her dad said she seemed happy when she left the house, just normal and nothing out of place. She was going to meet Scott, and she drove off in her green Honda Accord. The only thing different about that day is she usually didn't work on Wednesdays, but for some reason this Wednesday she was going to be working with Scott. Valerie's mom had been warning Valerie that she thought Scott was acting kind of weird around her, almost like a jealous boyfriend, after Valerie had told her mom that Scott was actually tracking Valerie's phone. She told her mom not to worry because he was her boss and he needed to know where she was at. Scott began to provide Valerie with money, food, gas, and took her on trips even. According to Valerie's mom, the family had moved to this small town because Valerie had some kind of violent trauma when she was a young child and lived in Indianapolis. And so they thought the rural setting would be good for her. They had no idea that a predator would end up as their neighbor. That day on June 7th would be the last day Valerie's family would see her alive. When Valerie's mom arrived home from her job on June 7th and found Valerie wasn't home yet, she began to call Valerie to find out when she would get home. When Valerie's phone continually went straight to voicemail, she called Scott and asked if Valerie was still at work that day. Scott's response startled her. Scott said Valerie didn't work that day, and he hadn't seen her at all since the day before. When the family came up empty-handed after contacting anyone and everyone they thought that Valerie might be with or know where she was, Mother called the Rush County Sheriff's Department and reported Valerie missing. Then on June 10th, a silver alert was sent out to the public. On June 8th, Scott and his wife actually came over to the Valerie's family home to reassure her parents that she would be found and that she most likely had just ran away from home. Scott also told authorities the same thing as he said to the parents. I have not seen her that day. She never came to work. Then on June 26th, authorities found Valerie's Honda Accord, and authorities told Scott they knew that he had seen Valerie that day because he had been seen on camera. At that point, Scott changed his story. He admitted seeing Valerie on Wednesday when they met at South High Garden Apartments in Shelbyville. She rode back with him to Homer, where he stated he then dropped her off with a male subject driving a little blue car of unknown make and model. After dropping her, Scott said he just went back home. Scott further stated on Thursday he returned to South High Gardens Apartments, retrieved Valerie's car, moved it to Berwick Apartments, backing it into a parking spot where police eventually found it. He said he did so because Valerie had asked him to. Scott says he did all of this because Valerie told him she was leaving and never coming back, and he was only trying to help her. Good Samaritan here. The license plates and keys were missing from her vehicle. Later we will find out that he actually threw those in the river. Police then informed Scott that Valerie's phone last pinged near Arlington, not Homer. Yet Scott insisted he was not with Valerie at that time. Valerie's phone also showed the last text she sent to Scott was at 11:23 a.m. and she said, I'll be there soon. Scott was then arrested on June 29th for providing false information to law enforcement relating to the commission of a crime, because he had told him he hadn't seen her. Then he had seen her and dropped her off. He continued to lie to officers about that day. Scott's bond was paid on July the 12th, and because nobody had been found or any further evidence was found, he was released on bond. Scott then stated to law enforcement officers on another date that he brought Valerie all the way back to his home, and he returned to work then. Scott said when he returned home from work, Valerie was gone, and he assumed she had run away because her dad was a... He just told one lie after another to authorities. Authorities knew the multiple stories were fishy, so they were able to do search warrants on his electronic devices. From the devices, they could see Scott had returned home on June 7th around 1 p.m., and he did not do his usual internet searches that he would do daily on his phone. In fact, he closed down several apps. However, his Apple Health app was still operating and it picked up some very unusual readings around 1:35 p.m. I'm assuming a racing heartbeat and rapid breathing would be what the court documents are referring to. Then on October 11th, the cadaver dogs were placed on property located directly east of Scott's property because of a large pond on that area. 4 different dogs gave a positive ID of human decomp near that pond, but the pond was searched with still no body found. The dog handler said it could actually be scent being carried by wind or water from another area that they were smelling. The wind that day just happened to be coming from another property that Patrick Scott owned. Officers were also able to determine that the date after Valerie went missing, that Scott had traveled to Home Depot in Greenfield, where he made the purchase of 4 2x4s and 2 sheets of 4x8 OSB. On October 12, 2023, a helicopter flyover was done over Scott's property, during which time they were able to see multiple areas of obvious ground disturbances. Because they found these disturbances, they were then able to get search warrants to search both of his properties on November 28th. At the property located at 2366 North Oak Street, officers observed a large dirt pile with miscellaneous debris. During this time, this area became a focus because of the large dirt mound and hole observed. They then began digging this area with shovels, during which time officers discovered a large homemade box made out of OSB and 2x4s. Coincidence? I think not. This box was found to be wrapped in a tarp and was discovered to be greater than 5 feet long. When opening this box, it was discovered that it actually contained miscellaneous paperwork as well as VHS tapes. Why would he bury VHS tapes? 2006 was the last time VHS tapes was used. I mean, what kind of evidence was on these tapes? And could there be evidence from that far back? Just weird. It makes you wonder what he could have done in the past that he thought needed, hid, and buried. Officers continued to dig when their shovel hit another box. As soon as the box was hit, an awful odor came from the box that officers knew was the smell of human decomp. Officers opened the box and observed black plastic. As they began to unwrap the plastic, officers observed that it was taped and wrapped multiple times. As they peeled the last of the plastic back, they were able to observe hands with orange fingernail polish on them. Exactly the same nail polish Valerie had on her fingers in the last picture that she had taken on social media. Scott was immediately taken into custody and interviewed. He immediately admitted to killing Valerie on June the 7th, but the first thing he stated was his wife did not know anything about the murder. Then Scott began telling a wild tale about how Valerie, a child of only 17, tried to seduce him, an almost 60-year-old man, in order to get a new car because her car was now old and barely working. He stated he took Valerie to his home because she had wanted to come to his home. On June 7th, when she began to seduce him by taking off her clothes, he stated that he wasn't going to have it. And this is the craziest story you ever heard. To me, not even believable at all. According to Scott, they began pushing and shoving each other. He admits to saying to Valerie that if her dad couldn't get her car running, he would buy her a cheap car to replace it. He said she got mad because she wanted a red Mustang convertible. To me, there is only one reason why an adult male who was not a relative of a teen would buy a car for a 17-year-old girl, and it was not a good reason. He admitted to killing her because she was trying to blackmail him, he said. He stated she was going to tell everyone he had his way with her, which he denies that any of this ever happened. He stated this is why he ended up killing her, so she wouldn't supposedly blackmail him. He admitted taking off of his belt, strangling her, and then putting the same belt back on and wore it. Wore it for weeks. I don't know how long. Scott advised he held the belt on her until she quit moving. Authorities asked Scott if he knew she was dead, and he said he pretty much figured so. He then pulled her body into his home office and locked the door. He left her body in the office overnight. That night, crawling in bed with his wife and him and his family sleeping peacefully while he had Valerie's dead body in his house. Then this man got up the next day, put that same belt back on his pants, and had enough nerves to walk over to Valerie's family home and try to comfort them, knowing he had the body of their daughter in his home. Scott even went to mow the local cemetery that day while Valerie's body lay in his office. According to Scott, a hole had already been dug on his other property because he planned to fill that with cement. Yeah, that's just strange in itself. Why did he already have a hole dug? At first, he lied to authorities about buying the lumber at Home Depot that day, saying he had the lumber just laying around his house. But when he realized they knew he had been at Home Depot, he then said, maybe I did buy them there. When asked if Valerie put up a good fight, he said, a little bit. When Scott was asked if he was bothered if he killed her, he responded coldly, well, I wasn't too crazy about it. He then admitted to building the box in his backyard on the 8th, then bringing the box into the house and putting her body in it. He then grabbed a dolly and rode the box to his other property where the hole was that had been previously dug. He placed her body in this hole, covering her back up. And apparently it was the perfect fit for this box. This hole that he buried Valerie in was only 100 meters from her own home. He then admitted to coming back a month later to bury the other box, the one with the paperwork and VHS tapes. Did he bury these items because he began to panic that officers were onto him? And what info is in this 5-foot box that he wanted to hide? What was on the VHS tapes and on the paperwork that has not been released by authorities? And what else was in this huge box that they have not told us about? When asked by authorities what the other box was for, Scott actually stated to put shit in. I mean, he's so casual and cold about this. He truly has the mannerisms of a serial killer, although at this time we have no proof of that. I do feel, though, that if he had been innocent of SIing Valerie, then he would not have killed her, because nothing could have been proven. If she had went to people and said, he had done this to me. If he was innocent, what did he have to fear? I don't think he would have killed her if he had not done something to this child. Valerie's parents felt that Valerie might have been pregnant. Another thing that bothers me, why was there multiple areas of ground disturbances on Scott's property? And did authorities bother to investigate those other areas? I mean, they said they did a flyover, and looking down they could see multiple areas of ground disturbances. Seems like they would have checked those out too, considering how cold and cruel this man seems. I mean, just quite scary, actually. The autopsy results have not been released yet, but the remains were positively ID'd as Valerie's. Scott is currently in the Rush County Jail. He's due in court for a pretrial conference on December 19th, and a jury trial is set for April 2024. Scott has been charged with murder, although somehow he entered a not guilty plea. Although he confessed that he did murder her, so I'm not sure how he gets not guilty out of that. A GoFundMe page has been created to assist Valerie's family with the cost of the funeral. I will put the link in the comments. My prayers and thoughts go out to the family during this tragic time. May you rest in peace, Valerie, and justice be served not only for Valerie but also for her family.
If you have a message for Patrick Scott, if he's watching this or somehow able to watch this in jail or reads it, what's your message for him?
I don't even know if I could put it into words.
There are no words.
Yeah, there's nothing.
He's a freaking monster.
You're heartless, soulless. You're a demon. And God will make you pay.
All right, I love you guys as always, and I thank you for your support. And if I hear anything else in this case, I will let y'all know. As many of y'all know, my house actually got taken down by a tornado. I almost got wiped out with it, me and my husband both, and my dogs. And we're rebuilding. And I'm super excited because actually our insurance did good for us. And I was so happy and shocked. So we were able to build a nice new house to replace our old house. And actually it's coming along nicely. Just ignore the construction that's around it because it's a mess around it. They hadn't cleaned it up. But I'm going to take you on a little mini tour of it. And hopefully it's not too much of a mess so we can get through there. Still working on rocking my house. Of course, they're going to put different door in. Just temporary doors for now. The garage is a mess. It's a garage. Simon's right beside me. This is his little doggy bath. This is my dog's doggy bath. We're in the corner. They don't know it. Do y'all? Y'all gonna get baked. I know. And it's so cool because my view from the bedroom, sorry it echoes, is actually my she shed and pond. My murder she shed. I'm going to have an antique clawfoot tub right here. I'm so excited about that. I've always wanted one and I finally got one. It's going to be my little mudroom nook. This is our living room. I know, I don't know why we did such tall ceilings. They're like 24 feet tall. Look like a church in here. And there's our fireplace. They're putting logs up in here, just like they did on the outside of the house. Yeah. I actually have a nice pantry this time. Before it just had like a closet, so I'm excited about that. Still got to build the cabinets. Here's my back porch, and there is crap everywhere back here. And then the outside fireplace. There it is. And that's the back porch. Of course, I'm gonna get a different door back here. I haven't stained the ceiling yet. I can't reach it. I'm working on it. Me and my husband are staining. I said me and my husband. Mostly me. It's done all the staining. And this is just going to be his little theater room. And we thought, we didn't know that the dogs could easily figure out how to get up here. I was thinking about putting carpet, but Simon figured it out pretty quick. He's such a little smarty pants. This is a theater room. We have a nice view. Yo, if it wasn't for all the construction going on, it would be a nice view. Yeah, our big TV's gonna go right there. I don't know what else we're gonna put up here. We'll figure it out. That's just the attic. But yeah, going down, Bubba. Look at you. You're so funny. You like it in the new house. And I want to tell you a piece in it every chance he can get. I'm hoping that changes when we move in. I hope so, because he loves to pee in it. He hikes his legs everywhere right now. I love this little mudroom nook. I'm going to build a bench that goes around. Actually, the bench will be on this side. There'll be little cubby holes, little hooks for our jackets to hang on. I think I'll really like it. And I'm not going to show you the rest of the house. Kind of a private thing. Anyway, love you guys. Bye.